Okay, let's talk about a big one, equality. It's a word you hear everywhere, right? It's this huge, fundamental value that we're all supposed to believe in. But what if I told you that what we think equality is isn't the whole story, and that trying to achieve it is actually the source of some of the biggest, most passionate arguments we have? In this explainer, we're going to dig into what equality really means, and trust me, it's way more complicated than you might think.
We all believe in equality, right? It seems like a no-brainer. It's the foundation of any fair society, this idea that everybody deserves a fair shot no matter who you are or where you come from. It's something we can all pretty much agree on. But if that's true, if we're all on the same page, then how on earth do we explain this?
Just take a second to let that sink in. The richest 50 people on the planet have more money combined than the poorest 400 million. That's not a gap, that's a canyon. It's a totally different universe. And it really makes you stop and ask that tough question. If we all claim to believe in equality, then why does the world we live in look so incredibly unequal?
All right, so to figure this all out, here's our game plan. We'll start with the equality paradox itself. Then we'll ask, what is equality, really? We'll look at its three main dimensions, check out some clashing ideas, and finally talk about the path to fairness. Let's get into it.
Okay, Section 1, the equality paradox. This is all about that massive contradiction, an ideal we all say we accept in a world that's just full of inequality.
This ideal of equality isn't new. It has been this powerful, driving force for centuries. Think about it. The French Revolution, anti-colonial movements, the civil rights movement. People have literally fought and died for this idea that all human beings have equal worth. And today, you'll find that idea written right into the constitutions and laws of countries all over the world.
But then, you just have to look around. The reality we see every day tells a very different story, doesn't it? You see sprawling slums right next to fancy luxury high-rises. You have schools with every amazing facility you can imagine, sometimes just down the road from schools that don't even have clean drinking water. There's literally food being wasted while people are starving. That promise of equality can feel pretty far away from the world we actually live in.
And this isn't just a feeling. We've got the data to prove it. Let's just look at these numbers from India, for example. The difference between rural and urban families is staggering. Electricity, 55% versus 93%. Tap water in your home, 35% versus 71%. A TV, 33% versus 77%. These aren't luxuries, they're basic amenities. When you see gaps this wide, you really have to ask, are we even close to being an equal society?
So this leads us to the biggest question of all. Are these huge differences just inevitable? A natural part of life? Or are they something that we've created? Are they baked into the systems of our society? That's really the core question that political thinkers have been trying to answer for ages.
All right, next section. So what is equality, really? Because here's a spoiler, it's not about making everyone the exact same. Okay, let's clear up the biggest misconception right off the bat. The goal of equality is not to treat everyone in an identical way. It's not about making us all clones. The actual goal is to treat everyone with equal respect and consideration. That might sound like a small difference in wording, but believe me, it is absolutely massive. This brings us to a really key concept, equality of opportunity. Think of it like a race. Equality of opportunity doesn't mean everyone has to finish at the same time. What it does mean is that everyone should get to start at the same starting line. It means that no matter your social circumstances, you should have the same rights and chances to develop your skills, pursue your goals, and have access to basic stuff like education, healthcare, and a safe place to live.
So to help us think about this, political theorists often split inequalities into two buckets. On one hand, you have what they call natural inequalities. These are things that just happen, differences in talents or abilities people are born with. Some people are amazing at math, others are incredible athletes. But then you have socially produced inequalities, and these are the ones our society creates, the ones that come from things like unequal opportunity or outright exploitation.
But, and this is a huge but, we have to be super careful with that natural differences idea. Why? Because historically, that exact concept has been twisted and used to justify some of the worst things imaginable. The idea that certain groups of people are naturally superior or inferior has been used to defend slavery, to deny women equal rights, and so much more. So it's a really dangerous and often misused distinction.
Okay, on to our third section. To really get our heads around this big idea, it helps to break equality down into three manageable parts, or dimensions.
So what are they? We've got political equality, social equality, and economic equality. Thinking about these three helps us see what a truly equal society might actually look like.
So let's quickly break that down. Political equality is about things like equal citizenship, the right to vote, freedom of expression, having a say in how things are run. Social equality is about having a fair chance to get ahead, access to good healthcare, quality education, real opportunities. And finally, economic equality is about trying to reduce those huge gaps in wealth, income, and property between the richest and poorest. You really can't have a truly equal society without addressing all three.
Right, Section 4. This is where things get really interesting and, frankly, a little messy. How should we actually try to achieve a more equal society? Because even if people agree on the goal, they have totally different ideas about how to get there.
Let's look at two major schools of thought here. First up, liberalism. Broadly speaking, it argues that free and fair competition is the best and most just way to figure out who gets what. But then you have socialism, which argues that, hold on, the real root of inequality is the private ownership of resources. Socialists would say we need more public or collective control. These are two fundamentally different ways of looking at the same problem.
And then you have feminism, which brings a whole other critical lens to this conversation. At its core, feminism is about equal rights for women and men. It makes a powerful argument that the inequality we see between genders isn't natural at all. Instead, it's produced by society, by a system often called patriarchy. The key idea here is that this system was created by people, and so it can be changed by people.
This cartoon just says it all, doesn't it? To ensure a fair selection, you all get the same test. You must all climb that tree. You've got a bird, a monkey, a fish, an elephant. Is a fair test always actually fair? It perfectly highlights one of the trickiest parts of this whole debate. It forces us to realize that sometimes treating everyone in the exact same way can actually be the most unfair thing you can do.
And that idea is really the core argument for policies like affirmative action. The thinking is that you can't just ignore history. If some groups have been held back for generations, you can't just suddenly say, okay, everyone's equal now, and expect a fair outcome. These policies are designed to correct for the buildup of those past inequalities, to try and create a truly level playing field.
Of course, there's a strong argument on the other side, too. Critics will say that these kinds of policies, sometimes called reservations, are actually a form of reverse discrimination. Their argument is that true equality means you have to treat every single person exactly alike, period. And what's so fascinating is that both sides are using the principle of equality to make their case. It just shows how complex this is.
So where does that leave us? Let's get to our final section, the path to fairness. This is all about that tricky balancing act between identical treatment and equal outcomes.
So, as we've seen, the road to a more equal society is definitely not a straight line. The central challenge is figuring this out. To actually promote equality, when is treating people differently not just justified, but absolutely necessary? The challenge for every society and for each of us is to find that line, to know when different treatment helps create fairness and when it just creates more discrimination. It's a tough question with no easy answers, and it's something we're thinking about long after this explainer is over.